Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. We'll talk about the pugilism later this afternoon. Many years ago, when we first started doing the YouTubes, etc., and I had more interviews, and I had done the London Reel a couple of times, and Joe Rogan, etc., I was asked, not unlike when Forbes asked me in the last year or two, and I said the countless 100 and 120-hour work weeks I did is a secret to my success. And but before, when I first started filming, I was asked, and I believe by Brian Rose on London Reel, they're not secrets, but these are the 4 things that I've always done differently than the other gurus from number 1, or the kids that come through the class. And I've told you I've only been asked one legitimate question in 32 years, which I'll share with you at the end of the week. And that means I've seen a lot of people. And I used to give the seminar in 1993, when I gave my first seminar in May 1993. I gave 22 seminars between May 23rd, 1993 and December, Christmas 1993, 23. And I've seen a lot of people. And only this century have I not given a seminar other than the castle. Because when I weighed all the data, the castle results were infinitely greater than anything else. And those different things is I've never cared about why. I alluded to that about an hour ago. And that's not something to gloss over, because all of you want to know why. And to this day, I'm going to be 80 in a few weeks, I haven't been able to get my head wrapped around that, other than insecurity and those kind of things. Why? For those of you that have kids, if I took your little kid, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and I put a gun in its mouth, and I pulled back the hammer, and I said, you've got 48 hours to get a chairman and a CEO, or I'm going to make their head part of the wallpaper. There's very few people that wouldn't be able to get a chairman and a CEO. Very few. There'd be a few, and they'd be sorry that their little kids' brain matter is part of the wallpaper. The QLA seminar is not just a seminar. It is a blueprint for creating generational wealth as fast as humanly possible. I teach you how to turn nothing into millions, billions, and even trillions. If you want to take control of your life, to create a legacy that lasts for generations, the time is now. Do not wait for the right moment. The right moment is this moment. Be bold, be selfish, be ruthless, and take no prisoners. I will still do seminars, but I won't be able to do this forever. Act now or not at your own peril. Thank you very much. I've always wanted to be effective. I've never worried about being liked, ever. Since I'm a little boy, and part of that is I already alluded to at least once that my dad always said, Danny, it's not what they say about you, it's how you interpret. And somehow I've always been able, since I'm a little boy, put a positive twist on what people said about me. And whereas Sally calls me Rhino Skin, I've been called Rhino Skin for about 50 years. When I was at Bear Stearns, I was a non-Jew, and I took a lot of shit about that. And they, I alluded already that Danny, you don't have to be embarrassed now. You're in a Jewish firm, you're a Jew. Okay. I took a lot of shit on Onassis. I've taken a lot of shit a lot of places. But I never wanted to be liked. I always wanted to be effective that got the job done. I only turned that effectiveness once I got out of the military into making money. And General Vaughn told me, a young man like you, Danny, could get wealthy in the civilian world. And I was out of the Army in 6 months. My dad told me, and this is an old cliche, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Now, the world has flipped on that. Now, words can hurt people. Rarely does anybody hit anybody with a stick or a stone. Rarely. And some of you that were coaching the guys that were in the ring, keep your hands up, but you're standing outside the ring. So you're flapping your fucking lips, and they're the ones that are getting punched in the face. And Mike Tyson said, he wasn't the first person to say this, everybody's got a plan until I punch him in the face. Okay? And I've never seen a business plan on paper that failed on paper. They always succeed, even though very few business plans do succeed. And the last thing I was taught as a young boy, I didn't phrase it this way: fear is false expectations appearing real. And that differentiates me from 99.999% of the people that walk on the planet, those things. Now, in the world that I've had the privilege of being around, high-performance people that make a lot of fucking money, almost all of us think the same way. You can't hurt Donald Trump's feelings. He's rhino skin. You can't hurt any of those guys' feelings. They don't give a fuck if you like them. They don't mostly give a fuck how they can use you, your talent, your money, your whatever, to accomplish their wants and needs, not yours. They act as, another thing I could put there, that act as if you had no limits to your abilities. But and they sound like Tremaine. Tremaine has no reason to talk like he does, other than he's been successful. Could you please put your coat back on, young man? Okay. Well, no, the pugilistic people don't have to put their coat on. But he's been successful. He has no reason. He's a black kid. It's the first time I've ever heard him say half black. I have never heard that combination come out of his mouth before. But he's a black kid who 5 years ago, you heard him, $66,000 a year as an appraiser, whatever the hell he did in construction. You know, I call it appraiser. Maybe it's not appraiser. And the first deal he did without me, I would add that we got problems now. The former chairman's suing us, but anyway, he did the deal, so he should take credit for that. And then he asked me, and I joined him. But I joined him because he was cocky. He asked for forgiveness, not permission. Not dissimilar to myself. But I've been like that since I'm 10 years old. And I got a lot of, when Sally and I went to my grammar school where I tried to kill my teacher, and we're not supporting the school and giving them. Today, it's their 100th anniversary this year, okay? And they needed a marquee, a big marquee, a sign, a lit sign. And so I was going to buy it. And then Sally says, "You're just doing that for your ego." Of course, I loved my name was up there. But anyway, we only paid for 20% of the sign. So, but I've had a big mouth, and I used to be in the principal's office twice before noon every day. If I wasn't in, because I did something wrong by the school standards, twice. If I wasn't there twice, the principal would come to my classroom. "Where's Danny? Is he sick today? Do I get arrested? Am I getting some?" Literally. "No, he's in the closet." They used to put me in the closet every day with a dunce cap. "Oh, he's in the closet." When I walked around the schoolyard with Sally, with the principal, I said, "Didn't you used to have a Foursquare game here?" I put a guy's eyes out on this Foursquare. Principal looks at me, and then you have a tether ball here. You knock a ball with a rope around a pole. I did such and such to a guy here. And then I broke a kid's arm in 7 places right here. Yeah. And I knocked a kid down, and he fell, and I didn't hear his arm snap. He says, "You broke my arm." Then I jumped on his arm, so it broke 6 more times. I was a terror. Tried to burn the school down, all kind of bad shit. Culminating in trying to kill the teacher, and they moved me out of the school district. Changing my family's life, social and economic milieu forever. Moving to a neighborhood that we couldn't afford. My dad had to get 2 extra jobs. If I didn't think he was home before, he was never home now. Okay. But I've been like this. Is leadership born or made? You're not born with it. I became a leader because of my dad. And then I polished it up when I went into the military. You guys will never be able to do this unless you try. You got to work at it. It's like a marriage, which I already told you not to do. If you don't work at it, you're going to fail. But even mice, you heard Peter. He worked at it. He worked at it. He did all the things that seem like fluff. Why do I need to go to Toastmasters? I speak good Hungarian. He's got a master's degree in mathematics from a reasonably good school. But if you don't do it, and you don't do the 200 to 300 presentations before you see your first motivated seller, and some of you have already tried. We'll see for the guys that have already done deals in here, whether you're going to pick up, when I pass you the baton, whether you're going to take it in your little scrawny hand, whether you're going to move forward with it, running towards the gunfire or not. I already have a pretty good idea. In the 90s, we used to go around after you introduce yourself, remember? Mind you, Rufus Dufus. And I used to, you know how the emperor in Rome used to go? That's what I used to do. Based on 60, 90, 120 seconds. I don't do that anymore. Because I'm a kinder, gentler. I'm a grandfather now. I still can do it. With one or two exceptions in this room, you couldn't give a blowjob away. Not you giving the blowjob. You couldn't give a blowjob away to a drunken sailor. Does everybody understand what that means? And that's from the chairman to the motivated seller. As the bishop told me recently, we weren't taught how to ask for money. Sell. Because I asked the nuns, I said, "Do you know how to sell, sister?" She looked at me like I was speaking Greek. Well, you're not much different, except you're not wearing a habit. Those white things they were white. If you don't take it serious, you're going to fail and go on Reddit and say QLA didn't work. What you're not going to say is QLA didn't work for me because I'm a cunt and I look like a flapping vagina when I walk down the street. You're not going to put that down. To date, nobody's put it down. QLA works. You heard Peter say it works everywhere for everybody. And he says, if you're going to try, don't bother. Or you're listening carefully enough to hear that. If you're going to try, don't bother. It's in my best interest that you succeed. So I add numbers to my totals. But not just numbers to my totals, because I've changed, not arguably, I've changed at least 2 million lives, families. And for every person that I've trained, directly or indirectly, their family's nucleus has changed. So if you want to say that I'm giving back, I don't look at it that way, but I know a lot of people do. I don't need the recognition to build my self-esteem. My self-esteem is bigger than this fucking room. I don't need that. I need you to build your self-esteem. Because I know without it, you're going to stay in your shell for those that are doing stuff. Like I've already told our Hussein friend that he can just sit back. He doesn't have to do anything, really. Nobody's going to, put him in the street and make him homeless. So he's here because, whether he pulls the trigger, I can't tell. But he's here because he wants to do more than that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent all the money. Again, some of you have saved to get here. My hat's off to you. But but you got to do more than try. You got to put yourself where you have no alternative but to succeed, as Peter said. Same reason I used to spend 120% of all the money I made, because I never wanted a backup plan. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a retirement plan. I never have. The closest I have is I get a check from Social Security monthly from the government. Which I couldn't live on. Not even partially. It might pay for, I wouldn't even pay for I might pay for my liquor a month, but that's about it. That's about it. So you got to do more than try. Our boxers, a couple of them you could tell had skills that they learned someplace. I'm not being a smartass, but I have a lot of skills, so I would say you could have learned more. I was this year, but because of insurance, there's a new thing in Eastern Bloc countries, it's telephone booth fighting. They lock you both in a telephone booth. That's where I think you learned how to fight, and so you're only moving 2 feet, and you're getting them up against the thing, and there's not glass, it's like stainless steel or something, so you don't knock them through the glass. But I'm a telephone booth fighter. And then I bite you in the jugular, or I bite your nose off, and the fight's over. Somebody asked me last seminar, or last boxing, yes, I have. When I tell you, most people can't fight without a nose. I can guarantee that. You were being kind. It was obvious. Okay, fine. And the other guys really didn't know what the fuck was going on, for the most part. We've had Golden Glove champions in here that didn't tell me they were Golden Gloves. And it was not pathetic. They should have told me, because she matches you. She only looks at 2 things: height and weight. Not that you've won 131 fights, this, that, and the other thing. By the way, our ref, who I think has won 141 fights, and he got to the below the bronze medal, in the Olympics. And he was my trainer till I got hurt, and he's too fast. I can't literally, unless I shove him up against the ropes in the corner. He's too fast. By the time my punch gets, he's already moved. Okay, which a few of you saw that. But you got to more than try, guys. I have respect for the people that were in there punching away. But you're going to have to do at least that to have any chance of success at this program. Now, there's an email coming up where a couple of guys have succeeded, but it's taken them years. But they never gave up, And as I said the first night, the only guarantee, and I don't give but 1 or 2 guarantees in the program, if you stop, you'll fail. I said the first night before we had dinner, I've never seen a part-time high-performance person in my 50-plus year career. I never have seen a part-time high-performance person. The Dutch have asked me, and I used to teach a university in the Netherlands, can I do this part-time, or can I do, and the answer is no. Have we had people succeed at doing it part-time? Yes. Andreas Milner's a classic example, and I've already described him. Worked 60 hours a week, and it took him, a year and a half. And after they made their 5th acquisition, he could pay himself. Now that we have 35 or so acquisitions, it seems a long time ago. But since I just met with them, had a board meeting, they're fresh in my mind. Questions or comments about the boxing? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And now there's a famous picture on social media where a PhD Saudi kid who went to school with the grandson of King Saud, who I mentioned a couple of days ago, or not a day ago, and he had never been in a. There's people in this room that have never been in a school fight, where the kids fight on not campus, on the school grounds. There's kids in this room here, that have never been physically disciplined by their parents, and I know physical discipline is out. Okay, there are kids in this room that have never been screamed at until they got here, and it shows. It shows. But this kid, the famous picture is he's swinging at whoever, and just like you ducked, he misses the guy's head by this much, maybe. Okay? And he's all extended. And if you block out the head, it looks like he's shadow boxing because he was punching at a shadow. Okay? And he's back in Neom, in Saudi. His wife left him. And he's doing well. And he's taken up some martial arts. But he didn't need to do that. But you got to do more than try. You got to, you got to make an effort. Now, there's not too many tubs of shit in the room. But normally I say, how many of you have ever been on a diet? Have you ever tried to lose weight? And most people, a lot of people have. And it's calories in, energy out. Calories in, energy out. It's very simple. But still 60% of America and 40% of Britain are obese. So it can't be that simple. It's a similar formula. Why do 60% of the people that have lung cancer continue to smoke? It's like the nymphomaniac. But as I've said, at least she's getting her nuts off 8, 10, 12 times a day. That doesn't seem such a bad thing to me. That doesn't somehow, And of course she says, I'm still in touch with her maybe once a year. She says, it's not such a bad thing, Mr. Peña. And I look at her and I'm the only guy that didn't get fucked. Probably within 10 miles of here, but, and she likes, she's still a nymphomaniac. She likes the fact that I use her as an example. 2 of my Hall of Fame up there, women, have killed somebody. They tried to somebody attempted to rape them, and they carry guns, and they both got in big trouble. They got off finally, but now you shoot somebody that's trying to rape you, you better have witnesses. Because the guy will say that she lured me. She did this. She took her panties off and threw them in my, whatever they say. But you got to do more than try. We're going to see after I get done pontificating here, we're going to see another one of my mentees who's successful, who I just saw in Germany, one of the board meetings, who hates what he does. And he's going to tell you, I hate this. But it's an ends of the means, a means to the end, excuse me. Okay, YouTube.